Hey guys, Emily Muchanti here, and I am back to finish off my highlights and my summary of the Big Sky Literacy Summit that was held in Montana at the end of August. And if you haven't seen the first part that really talks about some of the experts and the research, I hope you'll go back and take a look at that video. Today is going to be introducing you to some new people in the field that I was not familiar with, some of my learning, some of the behind the scenes fun things that happened. And if you stick to the end, you will see the shambles of my ending to the conference, which I haven't told anybody yet. I will share that with you if you stick around. All right, so I want to start, and I'm just going through my notebook with a ton of notes related to some of the things that I have learned, people I was introduced to, and want to kind of make you feel like you were there. So let's see, this was kind of mixed in. So remember that the theme of this summit was standing on the shoulders of mentors, and really we were able to actually rub shoulders with the greats. We were having lunch together, there were happy hours together, they were learning with us in the sessions, they were asking questions. It was the coolest thing. There was no hierarchy as far as, well, they are having lunch together, we're treating them and all you peons are kind of sitting below. That's not how it went at all. So it was a really unique experience. One of the sessions that I attended was led by Theresa Owens and Cheryl Butler, and they were talking about sustaining academic growth through a revolving door of change. And I thought that this really spoke to me and a lot of us who have experienced, whether it's a lot of staff turnover, changes in the pendulum shift, curriculums, leadership, all of this thing. And so they talked about their experience and the gains that they had made in their situation. Cheryl works for the district, and Theresa is, I believe, a consultant with the district, and working together with coaching, they did some really amazing things in this school. One of the things that I think was a really pivotal part of this talk was that sustaining academic growth takes time. This type of evolution, when you are looking at your system, being that you've got really horrible numbers as far as kids that are not where they should be, and you have to really wipe the slate and do something drastic. And that's really what happened here in this school district. And so it was really about how it takes time to evolve. And there were phases in the growth of this particular school district. And again, I'm going to link all the contact information that I have on people so that you can reach out and learn more. But they talked about phase one was really about establishing a supportive, I'm trying to figure out what my handwriting says. Establish a supportive condition for learning. So that whole first part of their work was really about making it safe for people to share, to grow, to learn, to be vulnerable, all of those things. And then the second phase of change came with the transformation of their core instruction. So they really did a number of things. They strengthened core instruction. They built strong leadership teams, and that wasn't just related to administrators, that was also teacher leaders. They created a culture of collaboration. They led, taught, and learned that was informed by the data. So leading, teaching, and learning, which was informed by the data. If we're not making data-driven decisions, we're just relying on our gut, and that's just not good enough. And so that was really I like the way that they laid out what they were doing within that district to make some serious change. So I will share that with you in the links below. Another kind of case study that that I sat in on was Margaret Goldberg, who actually worked in the Oakland Unified School District, and she's part of the Right to Read project. And her session was about the best and worst laid plans. And she was looking at how the top-down versus a grassroots movement was going to change schools. And she had been in 2 different school districts, so she had seen it from both perspectives. And the really big piece of that, I think that I took away was that, of course, a grassroots system is important. In order to drive some change, you get a little bit more buy-in that way, but they work for different reasons, and they come with their own set of challenges, I think. One of the things is that when you have a grassroots movement, and it kind of starts with your teacher leadership and your maybe even your parents, sometimes there tends to be, from an administrative standpoint, a hands-off approach to leading it. And that can be a little bit dangerous, because even though you have an important base for movement and change, you still need your leaders to make everyone accountable for a system-wide growth. And so that is, I think, the biggest change, or the biggest challenge there. If you have a top-down approach, you may have the leadership, but you may not have the buy-in. And so those are really important, and especially for the implementation of any type of change. I really enjoyed her session. She was a wonderful presenter. And then they had some fireside chats that they brought on panelists, experts, mentors, and they just kind of posed questions to the audience. And one of them that I really enjoyed, these were just casual, impromptu conversations where so many different things came up. And one of them that happened was this conversation about technology and about, assessment using computers and AI, and having kids write using AI or voice typing, and all of these different components that we have. And, some are good, some may be a little bit disabling of others, but man, talk about a truth bomb. Dr. Louisa Moats reminded us, and I quoted this one: "We do not succumb to the seduction of technology." I thought that was so poetic. Do not succumb to the seduction of technology. There are so many things that we need our kids to do, to process, with paper and pencil. There are so many things that, when we're talking about assessments, that teachers need to hear the kids read. You don't just plug them into a computer. When we are looking at intervention programs, this is my interpretation now, you've got so many different programs that are like, just put the kid on the computer, we can fix all of those skills. And it just doesn't work that way. We have to have this human interaction. We have to have this hand and paper, pencil, kind of processes to truly learn. And so her words, "do not succumb to the seduction of technology," was just a profound mic drop moment. I mean, they could have just ended it right there for me. It would have been wonderful. When we were getting to the end, okay, so I'm going to skip through this one. So Dr. Daryl Michaels was somebody new that I was introduced to at the session. And I actually got a chance to sit down and chat with him and pick his brain a little bit. And just a lovely gentleman. I also sat in on his session. Now, let me show you, because I had to buy his book, of course, but I wish it had arrived before I left. He co-authored Student-Focused Coaching with Jan Hasbrook. And so this, I haven't read it yet. Full disclosure, I have not read it yet. But he talks a lot about how we coach each other, collaborate in order to improve our systems. And his group, his website is called Be a Change. he acknowledges a few things that we need to recognize as coaches and as collaborators. And number one, we have to see each other as equals. When we are in a coaching situation, if you are in a situation and you are ready to, lead a group or work with somebody, it's very important that there is no hierarchy. There is no, I'm better, I know more, any of that. We have to see each other as equals. Otherwise, it's a little bit intimidating, for one. He says, whatever we know, it's not sufficient. Somebody sees something that the rest of us might need. And this is why we need other perspectives when we're looking at systems change. He did say that it's important as we're working together to make sure that we try to stay curious about each other and our situations, because it's really about building relationships and connection before we can do anything making a change in whatever capacity. And I would add to that that's true for our students as well. So slow down to think and reflect, so that you can be a more productive team. Again, I really enjoyed his session. It was very much kind of hit to the heart of who you are, and remembering that, yes, this is work, but it's emotional work. I enjoyed it. He said, expect it to be messy, because I would agree. It can be very incredibly messy. And then actually, I'm not sure if she's a doctor, Linda Farrell was a presenter, and she did something that was really unique with regards to fluency. Now, if you've ever seen me, I talk a lot about 6-minute solution, repeated reading, as far as a strategy for improving oral reading fluency. And what Linda Farrell, who is from Readsters, and I'll put the links below, really talked about doing something. She modified that 6-minute solution fluency component, and I really thought it was cool. I'm going to break it down for a few of my coaching kids, and we're going to break this down. But what she did in this procedure is focused on accuracy first. So they chunk text, okay? So it might just be 50 words, 40 words, or what have you. And they focus not on timing, not on rate. They only read for accuracy, reading for accuracy. Once 100% of the accuracy is reached, then a new phase of this procedure comes into place, where they're actually reading for rate and trying to improve reading rate. And so it was a super interesting. Now, I have found that through repeated reading, you generally get to accuracy. But this flipping of it to focus on the accuracy first, I really like this. And I'm going to try to find a class that I can practice this with. What she also said is they provide immediate error correction, so that there is this accuracy embedded. And when they achieve that accuracy, then they can go back and work on their reading rate. And so they have a nice procedural step-by-step guide. Again, that is through Readsters. So I will drop that link as well. Okay. Second to last, this has to be probably my favorite one. So Dr. Tracy Wheaton from the Neuhaus Ed Center, or Neuhaus. Anyway, I was chatting up Dr. Wheaton, and at a happy hour with Dr. Wheaton, lovely woman. Oh my gosh, talk about graceful and charming and just delightful. I didn't know who she was because she had cut her hair. And here's me being me, which I can be a lot sometimes. She was the most gracious person. The next day, she's on stage as a keynote. I was blown away. I was kind of embarrassed, but she was just such a motivator, so just impactful to get to your heart and remind us of the why. And she talked about, if we don't prevent educator failure, we will deal with student failure. Wow. So we have to prevent our own and our colleagues' failure. This is why it's so important that we continue to do the good work. We continue to learn. If we don't prevent educator failure, we will deal with student failure. And she had a couple of acronyms. One was FEAR, false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. And then FAITH, focused adult, I think it's intervention, tenacious with hope. I can't read my own writing sometimes. Put your best teachers in the lower grades. I would echo this. If we have to get our kids the foundations, our best teachers need to be in our primary grades. They need to have really good strength and explicit instruction. They need to know how to teach kids to read. I would say the same thing is true if you're using a walk to read model, a platooning model, where you are deploying students based on kind of their need. The teacher with the most experience, the best trained, the most knowledgeable teacher should be working with your most challenged kids. That is absolutely true. And Dr. Whedon also, she closed out our session the last day. And I got to say, I was in tears. She had us lighting the lights of our phones and being the light for each other. She brought up this teacher, this gentleman who was fairly new to the science of reading, who was just saying he felt so alone until he joined this conference and realized there were others just as passionate as him. There were so many tears in the room. And that was one of the things kind of behind the scenes that really struck me about this conference. I had never seen it this prolific before. The number of teachers that would ask questions, teachers, SLPs, specialists, whatever they were, the number of tears, people breaking down, crying because of either feeling they didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. So they didn't know all of the evidence to support this structured literacy movement, the science of reading, and they felt guilty for all of the kids that could have benefited from that. And that was one of the emotions that was really just prominent. Another one was that they weren't being given the right information by their universities, by their county offices, by their school districts, that this is starting to be really a grassroots movement. I think it's starting to become a little more prevalent. Some states, East Coast, are far more ahead than, say, California, who I think is very much behind what's happening. I left California, and that was, I think that they're a little bit behind the times that what's going on. So that was really kind of an emotional moment. We finally, the last speaker of the day was Dr. Steve Dykstra, who is a psychiatrist. He's not a reading educator. He's not a specialist in the area of reading. He works with kids that are severely psychologically traumatized, impacted by mental illness, like deep, deep, deep issues. And he was telling us stories that would make your toes curl. And he said that if you teach them to read, you are treating their trauma. We get so much into this trauma-informed, instruction. And he works with those that are in trauma, and his words were huge. So I hope you listen to this. If you teach them to read, you are treating their trauma. Reading is the great vaccine. Reading is the great vaccine. Reading is the thing that is going to give these kids opportunity and hope. And it was just an amazing, amazing event. So some of the behind the scenes things, okay, because these are the things that you don't get to know. In the evenings, we had little social gatherings, and different companies or organizations would come in and treat us with adult beverages here and there. And we'd go to dinner with other people, and we would network. And not publishers, the events, the tables that were out so that we could learn about different products and things were amazing. They were all so good and so helpful and giving, and that was really wonderful. I made so many connections on this. I learned that Dr. Deb Glaser lives in Boise. I was so excited. So I'm hoping someday to connect with her. And I met a couple of people in similar circles that also live near me. So I am already connecting with them. That is so exciting. In fact, one of my new friends is Maureen Freebrun, who she works for Collaborative Classroom, but she also is an author, Teacher Clarity. So I wanted to put this out here. She's going to work with my new teacher group and do a guest mentor session with them. This book is really great for brand new teachers because it breaks down some of those difficult processes that classroom teachers are struggling with. I don't think necessarily for intervention, but for classroom teachers. I love the easy read, love the font, love her voice. And so that was really exciting. I just connected. The other one I have to give a huge shout out to is Dr. Stephanie Stoller. You guys have seen her with me. I'm a part of her Reading Science Academy. She is just such an amazing mentor, guide, person that I just want to be when I grow up. And we have this little friendship and I just enjoy her. She hosted the Reading Science Academy so that many of us could see each other in person for the first time. That was wonderful. I got to spend time with Sharon Dunn, who I adore, also a fellow Californian. Well, I'm former, but she's there, who really works with administrators, trying to help them see the bigger picture. And it was just phenomenal. So it was good for my soul, good for my spirit, all that. But here's how it ended. If you stuck around this long, this is a good one. So my husband and I drove up from Boise. We're about 6 hours away. So we drove up to Montana from Boise, and my husband's name is John. So John decided that he was probably going to go and just kind of travel around Montana while I'm working. I told him, I'm going to be immersed in what I'm doing. And so he got there for one day and came to me and said, there's a lot of chatty women here. So he decided to go and explore Montana. So he did just that. He spent a night, out in one of the cities of Montana. He was exploring. The second night, spent another night out in somewhere in Montana. And I get a text at 6 a.m. the next morning. I don't think I can pick you up in Big Sky. I'm really, really sick. And I said, well, okay, my husband's a jokester. I'm like, are you kidding me? Nope, not kidding. Get on the phone with him. He got a severe bout of food poisoning to the point where he was not going anywhere. And I was going to get stuck in Big Sky. I get on the phone with my son who works for Enterprise. I said, find me a rental car. They didn't have any. I started to panic. My husband, there's some prior medical issues, so I need to be a little closer. And then I put the call out to everybody I met there. Anybody going this direction? Nobody is. So you have to think in these moments because that's what you do. I found Dr. Nell. I told Dr. Nell I have an emergency. And she grabbed me by the shoulder and said, let's find a solution. And she took me up to her team. They put my information out on the listserv that they had for people moving in the direction that my husband was going. And by the grace of God, I had these two lovely people, a mother and son. It was Cole and Patty, who took pity upon me and took me to my husband, who was about 2.5 hours away at the end of the conference. And everything worked out. We got him through, got home, all of that. It was, though, quite the ride. I meant figuratively. The ride was actually lovely with them. In fact, we talked about the conference. We had all of these common things. I learned so much from both of them. So excited to hear about their journey. Cole and Patty, if you're out there, drop me a comment. I still think you guys were my angels that day. I appreciate it so much. And we all made it back. But that was my Big Sky exciting situation. I will be going back next year. I will get early. They only allow 500 people, I believe, to this conference. It was phenomenal, and I can't wait to see what they bring to us next year. So listen, you guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Again, I'm going to leave you all of the information. You can check me out at emilymuchanti.com if you'd like to see what else we have going on. I'm doing some coaching now with a number of teachers all over. I'm actually international now and have some out of the country. So there are opportunities to work with me. And I just want you to grow and learn. And thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you for everything that you do, because these kids need you. So until next time, bye for now.